Hi, welcome to my parliamentary office at the end of this sitting week of Parliament. We're about to go into question time, but this week is really over. The President of the Philippines today, His Excellency Ferdinand Marcos, visited our Parliament today and spoke to the Parliament. It was the first for the President of the Philippines. He was welcomed by the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. Bob Catter, the member for Kennedy, will introduce a bill aiming to reduce the market dominance of supermarkets in Australia, and I will be supporting him because we should have that discussion. The Dunkley by-election coming up this weekend, in a couple of days' time. Labor is claiming underdog status in this campaign, and so is the opposition, so we'll see how that goes. The government passed its housing bill this week, and I opposed that bill because I don't think it will make any difference to the housing market in Australia. And in line with my predictions, also passed its revised Stage 3 tax cuts. Those tax cuts, as I predicted 2 years ago, whoever won the last election would have been revisited, and they have been. Other legislation this week, restrictions on residential property. Andrew G is moving a motion on that, so we can at least have the discussion on the ownership by foreign investors in the residential housing market. If we put a pause on that, like Canada has done and Singapore has done and New Zealand has done, would make a real difference immediately to the opportunity for people to get into housing. Of course, there's the ongoing controversy around the court order release of prisoners into the community, long-held prisoners in the community. That's a difficult one. It wasn't particularly the government's fault. It was a court order by the court itself. But importantly, it's how that was managed after and in the run-up to those releases that the opposition is complaining about. I met with representatives from One Gippsland and also the Peri-Urban Councils Group, Victoria, regarding their priorities, and I've also met with the representatives from the Commonwealth Bank regarding scams. Now, I asked a question of the Treasurer on scams in the last sitting of Parliament. That has brought a flood of inquiry into this office regarding scams, and I want to make sure that we just continue on with the scams issue because Australians lost $3 billion last year, and we will be keeping a close eye on that and seeing what more can be done to help Australians and get the message out. I'd just say to you, if in doubt, don't. I met, and also the Asia have announced in a speech last night that the greatest threat to this country is Islamic terrorism. We know that to be the case, but now they've announced it in the way that they do announce it, and so all of us have got to be very vigilant in that regard. The Queensland Supreme Court ruling on vaccine mandates on behalf of certain police officers, that's just a little crack in the wall now. Let's see the floodgates open on the illegality of mandates. And the Senate voted in favour of conducting an inquiry into excess deaths in Australia. Well, they haven't quite got to the inquiry stage yet, but at least they've acknowledged that there are excess deaths in Australia for the first time. So that's a little bit of a wrap of the week. We come back to the Parliament in 2 weeks' time, and I'll be with you then to give you a wrap at the end of each week of what's been going on in the Parliament. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this, please share it with a friend and swap it around with anybody you'd like to talk to. Thanks for having me.